It's my great pleasure to introduce this evening's presenter, Dr. Foster Cole. Dr. Cole's presentation focuses on resilience, and as a licensed psychologist who has been counseling children and teens for over 30 years, Dr. Cole is truly a subject matter expert. His presentation will be followed by a Q&A session. I would like to ask that you please submit your questions via the Zoom chat feature, and Dr. Cole will answer as many of these questions as time allows. Foster, thank you again for joining us this evening. We're very grateful. Please take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Kurt. And I hope that that the time that follows the presentation can be more than Q&A. I'd be interested in hearing some discussion from people too on their own personal experience with the topic for tonight. For example, people they've known who've really embodied resilience, or maybe even resilience skills that you really have developed or are working at developed that are really working for you. Because tonight's presentation, it's a sampler. It's certainly not exhaustive, and I'm sure you all have a lot of valuable life experience that hopefully we can hear a little bit more from you after the presentation. Presentation tonight just be about 15 or 20 minutes. And the presentation, I did design it for teens and adults. I know there are some parents of teens here. And so I'll just do the presentation as if there were a few teens in the audience, and maybe the parents of teens can just get some words or some language to consider using with your teens when the time's right. So I'm going to get a visual presentation started here for this part. And I'll start in just a moment. There we go. Right, so most of this presentation was developed by the American Psychological Association, but I have made some changes to update it and expand it. And tonight I'm here to ask an important question. Do you have bounce? So you know how sometimes people go through rough times and still bounce back? They have bounce or resilience. Resilience is the ability to deal well with hard times, like the obvious these days, pandemic, illness, times of life where there's just a lot going on in your life, a lot of change, high stress times in job, school, or family, being bullied, figuring out life after high school or college, or just even small day-to-day challenges. So we're going to talk today about some of the ways to build resilience. Maybe you're already using some of these skills without even knowing it. Maybe tonight you'll hear some new strategies that can help you stay strong the next time you're out of your comfort zone. Stress makes everything harder. And instead of working harder, resilience skills allow us to work differently. You know, when we are stressed and overwhelmed, the last thing, we are working very, very hard just to get through day-to-day life. And the last thing we need to do is another thing to add to the list. And so that's really what I want to encourage people to think about. Again, working different, not working harder. So why do we need resilience skills? Ads and social media posts make life look very easy. Everybody seems to be laughing, hanging out with friends, having a great time, traveling. But life can be tough sometimes. Resilience can make us stronger. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And the stronger resilience gets, the stronger you get as a person. This is important because we never know what life has in store for us. Resilience can help us navigate through those rough patches a little better, no matter what the problem or stress is that you're dealing with. Now think of a canoe on a wavy lake. I'm envisioning a certain moment in the Boundary Waters that I experienced on a Nativity canoe trip at one point in time, very wavy, and really, frankly, kind of a little bit of a frightening lake crossing. But think of a canoe on a wavy lake. If the canoe turns sideways to the waves, it's going to tip and roll. Resilience is like pointing the front of the canoe into the waves. The canoe not only doesn't tip or is less likely to tip, but it generally moves in the right direction the paddlers want it to go as well. It's kind of an example about how resilience isn't just for getting us through hard times. Sometimes we can end up stronger as a result of adversity, or depending how we deal with adversity, rather than just simply getting through it. Oops. I skipped a slide, excuse me. But so where can you get resilience? It's something you build. There's no one place or right way, and it takes time. The good news is that resilience really isn't something you're born with or not. The skills of resilience can be learned. I think a lot of times when we see other people doing well, we get the idea that they're just that way as a person, right? And they're them and we're us, and we can't have what they have. But really resilience can be built. And what it looks like can vary from person to person. Building resilience does not happen overnight. It takes time, effort, and happens in steps. Now, a lot of times when you get these kind of presentations, you know, the presenter cites a famous person or a well-known person, inspirational. And I think this is kind of a double-edged sword. I'll do that, but then I'll finish up with a little twist here. So this, for those of you who may not know from the picture, this is Greta Thunberg, who's a internationally known teenage climate activist. And she experiences some adversity, I'm sure, in several ways. Well, given that she wants to influence the world, she experiences autism and anxiety. At the start of her crusade, she would kind of picket, I believe, outside the Parliament building and standing up for her cause. And I'm sure she was pretty much ignored at the beginning. And when she got more attention going, some of the world leaders started really picking at her, and they were really mean and very personal in some of their comments to her, and it did not stop her. She hasn't succeeded in changing the world or overcoming climate change, but she really is living out her life and her values and really making a difference. And to go through all of what she's gone to be able to do that, she's got resilience. You know, of course, this is a very large, famous, you know, kind of example, but do not think of resilience as something that only well-known or unusual people have. It's really for all of us. And it's for use in everyday life in small matters, not just overwhelming societal matters or life crises. Your resilience efforts likely will not make the news or get any attention or awards, but you and maybe those around you will likely be better off for you using these strategies. And so this is part of the reason I wanted to just ask people later on to just maybe think a little bit about who they've known in their life, who just in their own personal life, real life, people that we know and we've interacted with that have really embodied resilience, and what did that look like from them? All right. So there is no single way to get or build resilience. What works for you may not work for a friend or brother, sister, parent. Even so, if you're resilient, that doesn't mean you won't sometimes feel stressed, angry, or anxious. You'll always have these kind of feelings because they come with being human. What resilience does is help you get through these things and feelings in reasonable shape. So let's look at some of the ways to build resilience. We are doing it right now. Get together with other people. Talk with your friends, and yes, if you're a teen or young adult, even consider talking to your parent. Understand that your parent may have more life experience than you do, even if it seems like they never were your age. Your parent may be more afraid for you if you're going through really rough times, and it may be harder for them to talk about it than for you. Don't be afraid to express your opinion, even if your parent or friend takes the opposite view. Ask questions, but also make sure to really listen to the answers that people give as well. So get connected with your community, whether it's part of a book club, a church group, a high school group. Being part of something bigger than ourselves can give us hope and meaning above and beyond the challenging things that we might be going through. So connecting with other people helps you feel not so alone, no matter what happens. That gives me personally a lot of comfort that, you know, when we worry about something difficult happening, just thinking no matter what happens, I don't have to go through it alone. And that really is I heard that from Pastor Seefeld, by the way. That's a real comfort to me. So take control. Avoid procrastination. Stress. People can check out of a stressful situation or spend just a lot of time wishing that things could be different. Instead, make some realistic goals and do something regularly to help move towards these goals in small steps. Taking action can help you feel better by beginning to take charge of your path through a rough time, kind of like steering that canoe into the waves. You can also build your confidence in your ability to handle problems. During a really hard time, just getting out of bed and going to school or work may be all you can handle. But even accomplishing that can help because it sure beats the alternative. Bad times make us feel out of control, so grab some of that control back by making a plan and taking action. Now, at the same time, let's be realistic. We have to accept that change is a part of life. Certain goals may not really be possible anymore. But try to focus on circumstances that you do have some control over. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Serenity Prayer, which I will say just a portion of here to remind you. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Part of a Serenity Prayer used by Alcoholics Anonymous, big resilience group worldwide. So connecting with a higher power. Pat helped us do that to begin with. And I thank Pat because for just opening up some quiet and space in my mind prior to doing this presentation. And so a higher power is something bigger than ourselves that we trust to see us through life. It might be God, Jesus, a group of people you know, or it could just be a set of values that you try to live by. In times of stress, asking for help from a higher power, then leaving it in the higher power's hands can really help you feel better and also keep you from making things worse with choices that come out of fear, overwhelm, or tiredness. That's another way resilience skills can help. Sometimes they do just get us through a tough spot, but you know what? Getting through a tough spot is better than making it worse with stress-driven decisions. So some people find the idea of a gratitude list helpful, making a list of things that they're grateful for. Some people like the idea of a God box, write their troubles or concerns on a piece of paper, put it in a box or envelope and leave it there, knowing it's in helpful hands. Sometimes maybe even going back a month or two later, getting out what you put in the box, reading the comment and seeing what has happened without you actively having to maybe even do anything about the problem per se, or what's happened in the wake of your efforts. So, of course, prayers for the strength to do what's ours to do, or for healing, is an ancient resilient practice, as Pat mentioned. You might consider as an adult meeting with a spiritual director who can help you watch for God and find out where God is at in the situation that you're challenged by. I know that through Nativity, there are several people who do spiritual direction. Next one, cut yourself some slack. Be patient and gentle with yourself. When something bad or tough happens in life, it can really make daily challenges harder than usual. As a teen or a very stressed adult, your emotions might be all over the map. The uncertainty during a time of stress can make these shifts even more extreme. Be prepared for this and go a little easy on yourself, and also go easy on your friends and family as well. Just a little bit about self-care, and this can come in many forms, but let's just focus mostly on sleep here for a moment, because I think this as a nation is something, even in good times, that people struggle with, but in times of stress, it can be even more of a challenge. So make sure to take care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and getting enough sleep is part of that. If you don't, you might be more grouchy and nervous at a time when you need to stay sharp and calm. When there's a lot going on, it's going to be tough to face if you're falling asleep on your feet. Don't be surprised if you do well during a crisis or right in the middle of something going on, but then you crash afterwards. It's really normal for people sometimes to feel stress more often after a challenge has passed than when we maybe are right in the middle of it. So stress can bring up a lot of conflicting emotions, but sometimes it's too hard to talk to somebody about what you're feeling. If talking isn't working, do something else to express your emotions, like keeping a journal or creating art. If you don't feel able to talk to a person, consider talking to God through prayer. Prayer can create more room inside yourself so you can maybe see more options or just feel better and not so alone. Nothing helps you feel better than helping someone else. If you find yourself feeling sorry for yourself, like I suppose we all do at certain moments, try to help somebody else. That might take the form of a formal thing like volunteering in your community or school, but it also can be simple, like helping other people around the house by cleaning up a little bit, or helping a friend with his or her homework or responsibilities that they're feeling a little overloaded by. So seeing things for the size they are, keeping things in perspective. The very thing that has you stressed out, maybe anyone is talking about now, but eventually things change and bad times end. If you're worried about whether you've got what it takes to get through this, think back on a time when you faced your fears, or whether it was asking someone for a date or applying for a job. Learn some relaxation techniques, whether it's thinking of a particular song in times of stress or just taking a deep breath to calm down. Think about the important things that have stayed the same, even though the world outside is changing. When you talk about bad times, do make sure to talk about good times. And keeping a gratitude list is an example on a daily basis to keep in mind that there's more than the pain that we might be having at the moment, or the tiredness or the fatigue. Some people find it helpful. Oh, I already mentioned about the gratitude list. And a little bit more on keeping things in perspective. Try to visualize what you want in the future rather than what you fear. So remember I mentioned resilience can even be about small, mundane kind of problems. So my personal experience with this, trying to focus more on what I wanted rather than what I didn't want. So I enjoy playing the piano, brings a lot of happiness to me, but I do get quite nervous when playing in front of other people and don't often play well for them like I do when I'm on my own. It can be frustrating and discouraging. And so recitals, which I do twice a year, can make me shaky and distracted, leading to me losing my place in the music, having to stop mid-song to get restarted. And for years, I tried to solve this problem by focusing on what I didn't want to have happen. I wanted to play well. I wanted to play perfectly. I did not want to make mistakes. And of course, I'm sure you can all imagine where that got me. Stuck in my nervousness. And so after a while, I decided to start, I shifted what I do want in the situation. That is that if I do make a mistake, I want to keep going as smoothly as possible and get back on track as smoothly and gracefully as possible. And that has helped. It hasn't fixed everything for me. I still get nervous playing in front of other people, but on the whole, I have better recitals now than I did. And I have to admit, I really still don't love playing in piano recitals, but I have not quit. And in sometimes when I really felt embarrassed or humiliated kind of as a result of freezing and getting lost and having to bumble my way back into a piece, I was tempted to quit. And so using this strategy about focusing on what do I want here, no matter what happens, has really helped me keep going and keep this as a good part of my life. Okay, now here's one of the big takeaway points from tonight for everybody. Turn off the news, or at least try to minimize it or discount it. So during a time of major stress, excuse me here, got to get on the right page. Sometimes the news and with its focus on the sensational, can add to the feeling that nothing is going right. I bet I'm not the only one here on this call tonight who has that feeling about all day long, every day these days. And so try to limit the amount of news that you take in, whether it's from television, newspaper, apps, or news feeds. Watching a news report once informs you. It gives you information. That's fine to be informed in the world, but really kind of come across the story time after time. I heard it on the radio. I saw it on the TV. Now it's in my Facebook feed, and somebody's mad about it, right? This does not inform. This just, it's like picking at a wound over and over again. So try to minimize how much news you take in or how many different ways it comes at you during the day, kind of take control over that. So one of the things I love about being in the boundary waters is that it reminds me that the world keeps turning even when I am not keeping track of it. And that's a good feeling. If something really important happens when I'm out in the wilderness, I'll hear about it when I get back. And most of the time, really what I hear when I get back is nothing about what happened. And that's just fine. All right, stick to the program. During a time of major stress, map out a routine and stick with it. You may be doing all kinds of new things, but don't forget routines that give comfort. Whether it's the things you do before class, seeing a friend, going out to lunch, calling a family member, going to church, exercising. Life balance can help keep you steady through a time of stress and change. Consider making a list of the most important activities on a daily and weekly basis and regularly show up for them one day at a time. I did this most recently when my parents a few years ago moved out of their longtime home, and they were really unable to participate in figuring out what to do with all the 40-some years of belongings that accumulated. And my sister and I worked for about a month, very hard. And I really focused on what are the 5 things I need to do each week to take care of myself. And really just made sure that those didn't suffer, that I didn't skip them because I was tired or didn't feel like it. All right. And finally, just a word about getting professional help. Up on the screen are some signs that getting professional help would be a good idea. And I'm just going to focus most on thoughts about harming self or others, of course, because that's most important. So talk to a doctor, counselor, or other trusted adult if you're really struggling. If you have thoughts of harming yourself or others, talk to somebody you trust and get professional help that day. Similarly, if you're a teen and a friend expresses suicidal thoughts, make sure to stay with them, but also let their parents know that your friend has told you that they're having suicidal thoughts. Even if the friend asks you, don't tell anybody that I'm thinking this or that I said that. Friends don't keep that kind of promise. Friends speak up, and we're there for friends in ways they can't be there for themselves. All the time I meet with teens who've told their friends that they were thinking of killing themselves, and their friends, thank goodness, told their parents. Parents got them in to see me. I was able to find out what was going on. And I've never really seen any of these teens angry at their friends for telling. And some have voiced appreciation for it as well, too. So Gail mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, Mental Health Connect, a user-friendly way to find out who to turn to for help. That can be hard. Where do I start? People really value getting a name, getting a specific resource from somebody who's got some experience. And the navigators through Mental Health Connect are really uniquely suited to do that. And it's a blessing that for our community that there are people like this who can turn this big task of where do you turn for help into something personal and meaningful and helpful and user-friendly. So these are your resilience tools. I do have 2 tip sheets available if you'd like them. Actually, Kurt Bachmeyer has them, and he'll give you some information in a moment how to ask for them and request them if you'd like them. So the tip sheets are modeled off this presentation. One is Resilience for Kids and Teens, a guide for parents and teachers. And the other one is Resilience for Teens, Got Bounce, reminder sheet for teens about this. So that is the end of my formal presentation. Certainly we can do questions and answers, but I think it might also be meaningful for people to have a little bit of a discussion about their personal examples. Again, like I said, about a person who they've known in their real life who have embodied resilience. What did that look like? And then what kind of resilience skills have you found helpful to you, and or are you working on?